morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Product Marketing Breakdowns. This is a brand new podcast that focuses on learning from your peers. Product Marketing Breakdown gives us a platform to some of the best product marketers in the industry to come on and to break down a product marketing project that they themselves have worked on in their career, share the insights that they leveraged in the process, and explain why it works. I want to enable each and every one of you to learn directly from the actual creators, take inspiration from their work, and apply that in your day-to-day work. For those of you who don't know me, I'm your host. My name is Chirag. I'll be your host for every episode. I'm a director of product marketing. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I'm also a top product marketing voice on LinkedIn. This is episode number 2, and today I'm joined by Susanna. Susanna is a principal product marketing manager at Workday. Workday, you would know, is one of the most famous HR and people management platforms. If you have applied for a job, chances are you've done it on Workday's platform. Susanna has led marketing teams at an executive level in her previous roles and has transitioned into product marketing in the last few years, where she was responsible for leading some AI specific product launches. Susanna, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us. How was that intro, by the way?
Oh, thanks, Jack. Yeah, it was great. I like hearing all of the background, and thanks so much for the nice intro.
Yeah, no worries. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and what your journey in product marketing has been like so far?
Sure. So I started my career in account management. So I sat comfortably between customers and sales and really learned a lot about that relationship. Um, After a few years in that industry, I moved into an event planning company where I was responsible for activating new chapters across North America. So I really developed a lot of the go-to-market strategy, very process oriented in activating brand ambassadors, communicating the benefits, and sharing updates from the company. That was a startup that unfortunately ran out of runway. So I quickly pivoted into the B2B SaaS industry, where I've been ever since. I was the first marketing hire at a B2B health tech company,
Hmm.
where I started the product marketing function from the ground up. I eventually moved up into a senior leadership position before moving to an ed tech company where I have the AI project that we'll review today. And now I'm at Workday on their almost 100-person product marketing team.
100 people. I think that's incredible. We touched upon this a little bit before, but you mentioned about the AI project that you led in product marketing as well. So your last company required you to, lead the company's efforts when it comes to their foray into AI. How did you go about marketing that? What was your process like?
It required a deep understanding of your product strategy. So sitting with the product team to understand what is being built, what problems it solves, why those are being built, and also your customer sentiment. How do they feel about AI, and what do you need to do as a product marketer to bridge that gap and build that understanding? There's a lot of companies out there touting their AI capabilities, but AI without a clear strategy is a solution without a problem. If you don't have an understanding of what problems AI solves for your specific customer, it will be hard to drive adoption.
AI without a strategy is like a solution without a problem. That's so deep, and I love that. That's a great way to put it across. Uh, that's actually one of my like when I'm going to be playing this episode back. That's one thing that's going to stand out to me. Like I love how you put that across. So that was awesome. And you touched upon this as well, right? More and more product marketers are starting to talk about their respective companies' AI efforts. What's your take on that? What's your take on how they are doing it? Are there any things that you have learned throughout your process that have helped you?
It it seems like a lot of the buying interest for AI features is at the top. C-suite is being asked, "How are you using AI in your company?" And they feel like they need to have an answer to that. So, coming from the top down, they want to make sure that the boards and C-suites want to make sure that their teams have access to AI features. But I think that adoption at the individual contributor level is still fairly limited. These leaders
Interesting.
probably don't have a clear understanding of how their employees are going to use it. How trustworthy is this AI? How long do these models need to work within a business before it'll actually provide dependable results? And so I think it will require a cultural shift across the organization to become an AI enabled organization. So to me, this means AI is still really important to decision makers. But from the product marketing standpoint, we might not see the adoption that we want. And that's a problem that we're pretty actively tasked with solving.
That's interesting. You mentioned about the adoption of AI at an individual contributor level. That it differs significantly to what someone at a C-suite or an executive level is doing. Is that something that you are seeing? Is that something that has been your observation so far?
Yeah, yeah. I think when you get to like the buying committee, you see people interested in the AI features, but then they actually make the purchase. They don't necessarily activate the AI features at
Yeah,
the user level. And so maybe you'll see a little bit of a spike where they'll turn something on, but do you actually see broad ongoing activation of these features? And I think that there's a lot of product marketers that feel like, hey, maybe we need to keep working at this. And what do we need to do to either educate our customers or really make them understand that this is a benefit to them, um, so they can use it more effectively.
that's interesting. Awesome. Let's move from that role to your current role right now with Workday. So, in your current role, you're leading product marketing efforts for one of their collective application suite. Can you talk a little bit about what is that? How does it work? And what are the elements of AI that they specifically are looking into at Workday?
Sure. Um, Workday has a lot of products. So my
Sure.
role involves sitting with the product marketers across all of our product SKUs to create cohesive segmentation, messaging, and positioning, so that our buyers understand exactly how much of their business they can run on Workday. Like you introduce us as an HR company, but we also have financial management solutions as well. Um, and Workday has AI functionality built into its products for many years. I think we have over 50 features with AI or machine learning in production. So there's some really great functionality around machine learning to track anomalies and increase efficiency, but there's also Workday Assist and some generative AI capabilities as well. And we are really focused on automation. I think we had a recent study come out that showed that Workday customers automate 65% more processes than non-Workday customers. So we're really leading the charge with AI and automation for our users.
65%. That's great. Uh, I was looking up your profile, obviously, when I reached out to you, when we had a conversation. I obviously know you from before as well, but when I look at your profile and your career trajectory so far, extremely inspiring. You've done so well for yourself. What is the one piece of advice that you can share, or something that you've learned along the way, that has helped you so far, or has helped you in the past?
Sure. I think a lot of product marketers tend to be type A and very focused on the goal. And I was like that earlier in my career. I was always seeking out titles, moving up. And I did eventually make it to the C suite, and it was a small tech company. It was during COVID. And I also navigated through an acquisition of that company. And so I had 5 different teams reporting to me through all of that change. And I started to feel a little bit burnt out. And so I realized that I needed to take a step back, but I didn't want to give up being in a strategic role. So
Sure.
focusing on product marketing, which was something that I had spent the last 4 years working in some capacity, felt like great alignment for where I wanted to be. And so through that, I learned that titles don't really matter as long as you feel valued at work,
Yeah.
you like the work that you're doing, and generally like the company or the management. I think that that means you're doing quite well.
Yeah, no, totally. I like how you called out the fact that you wanted to shift into a more strategic role, and all the PMMs, the product marketers that I speak to, often end up saying the same thing to me. That given how strategic the role is, given how cross functional the role is, if you look at where product marketing sits, it's so central, based on central to sales, to product, to customer success, to onboarding, and so on. There's so many areas of business that you can touch, and so many areas of business that you can influence, and the ability and the opportunity to do that is something that I personally find so inspiring, and something that really helps you make an impact to the business, and call some of these shots as well, which is awesome. uh, okay, next section, let's get into the example that you actually brought. So just for the listeners, just as additional context, on every episode of Product Marketing Breakdowns, I'll be asking the guests to think of a product marketing example that they themselves have worked on in the past, or any campaigns or any material that they have been responsible for creating, and walk us through the insights and walk us through why they did what they did. So I asked Susanna the same thing as well, to think about an example in a current role, in a previous role, that she would like to talk about, and she has come prepared. She has come with an example today, which is awesome. So let's dive into it. Can you introduce and share some context about the example that you brought with you?
Sure. So I have 360 Learning's AI certification for learning and development managers. It was a brand team owned project, but they needed a product and customer expert to develop the content for the certification. So this would be a certification that was available to our customers, but it also would be for non-customers and was expected to be the largest campaign in company history. And it involved wrangling 60 stakeholders to develop, build, launch, and manage this course. So you can still see it on their website, and you can register if you'd like.
No, that's awesome. 60 stakeholders is obviously your work's cut out, I have been in those situations. You have so many different voices, but what matters is, at the end of the day, this is something that's actually going to add value. This is something that is, you know, um, helping plug some gap for a customer. So that's awesome. When you were creating this AI certification, what were the key insights? What were the things that you leveraged in your overall process when you were building this out with those stakeholders? And can you kind of walk us through what your process was in sourcing these insights?
Sure. I think if you're working on AI initiatives or you are launching AI initiatives, there are a lot of people looking at your work. So
Yeah.
communication becomes really important. So I just developed a template of weekly updates that I would push out to everyone from the C-suite down to everyone involved in the project. And it highlighted what had been done, what I was currently working on, and what other team members were currently working on, and then any blockers, so that anyone who was invested in the project in any way could quickly understand where things sat, make sure that we were still on target for the delivery timeline, etc. And this type of communication builds so much trust with your team internally, and it just really ensures that there's forward momentum with the delivery of your project. From a resource standpoint, leveraging customer conversations and discovery. And then I also use
Yeah.
ChatGPT to talk to me. How do you use ChatGPT? And so that was really helpful too, to just see what the AI itself would say was best practices. Um, I worked with everyone from our product strategy team to copy editing, instructional design, even legal was involved since we were moderating content. So this is a big project. It's a
Yeah.
really big opportunity to work cross-functionally, and honestly, it was really fun to build. So I thought it was a great success overall.
I love the fact that you used an AI tool to create an AI course. I love that.
I know, how meta.
How meta? Yeah, that's a state, right? That's where things are going, and I won't be surprised if that happens more mainstream, right? That's awesome. You touched upon this a little bit as well, but I just want to dive a little bit more into what were your specific responsibilities. What were you mostly leading in this case, and where were you playing more like a supporting function?
Sure. I mean, I was developing the course. The course needed to be able to support our product and tie back into it, but it also needed to be
Yeah.
product agnostic so that our audience would get benefit from it, even if they weren't a customer. And ultimately, the goal was to build trust and understanding of how AI could effectively be used by learning and development professionals.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I like the fact. So when I look at this example, and when I hear what you had to say, this, I think, for me, sounds like a very, very good example of how a product marketer is playing such a central role in shaping the outcome of a product. Like this
Absolutely.
itself. You mentioned there are 60 stakeholders. You were responsible in creating the actual curriculum and the actual content, which is what we see on screen here. So that's, I think, a great example of a product marketer doing what a product marketer should be doing, and I love that. Can you walk us through the process of, I guess, two things? One is, um, who was the target audience for this course? Number one. Number two, how did you decide out of what we are seeing here, what curriculum, what topics should be covered and should be built in the certification? Can you just kind of walk us through what that process was like?
Sure. So our target audience was our admin level user, so the learning and
Mm,
development manager. When I built this, there were already a lot of AI courses, everything from LinkedIn to
sure,
Masterclass to, all it
sure.
was everywhere. But creating a course that specifically adheres to our power users was a way to differentiate this course from the countless others. And originally, the course was intended to just cover prompt engineering on how you could use AI to create courses faster, create a course
Right.
catalog, things like that. But the CEO decided that he wanted it to be broader. So that helped inform the content and the topics. So, one, it was clear that the audience was nervous about AI and didn't really understand
Mm,
how it could benefit them. So, knowing that we needed to create a foundational course that was more introductory in its content was important. And then also sitting with the brand team to come up with a curriculum so that it was also very marketable and easy to convey the benefits of the course.
sure.
So one, I wanted to give them a high level overview. AI machine learning has been in production since the 1950s. And so we've all been engaging with it for a long time, but sometimes we
We
need
just
that
don't know it
reminder
yet.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, like we're familiar with it. We just don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
it. And then just give them like, hey, here's the key terms. What's an LLM? What's generative AI versus
sure.
machine learning? And these sorts of just general basic guidelines. I created a prompt library to give them some guidance and really just help them understand like all of the different use cases that it could be applied to. And then I wanted them to understand the benefits and the risks. So
Mm,
prompt engineering, but also the hallucinations that might be coming with that and the importance of the human layer to ensure that the accuracy of what you're developing and leveraging on AI.
yeah.
So ultimately, it was an introduction to build confidence and to share how AI can benefit L&D leaders and really to support their long-term career growth. If this is a tool you can learn to adopt and
Yeah.
benefit you, then you are setting yourself up to be successful. Um, and there's a lot of overlap between learning and development managers and product managers in that you are working cross-functionally. You need to understand business strategy and team strategy and who all of your internal quote unquote customers are. And so, frankly, these are skills that I felt were really valuable, and I would recommend all PMMs learn too, prompt engineering and all the risk management that you can use with AI.
Love it. That's a great example. And I like how, when someone listens to this podcast, they'll be able to see a PMM in all its glory. Like I think about it as someone who is, uh, as I said earlier as well, responsible for so many different areas, playing the orchestrator role in bringing this together, making sure that understand what does a person will actually benefit from, what are the things they should know, what are the things that they should probably, which is not vital for them to know. Even that's a skill in itself, right? what
Mm-hmm.
what goes behind each of these materials, everything that we are seeing here, that itself is a process. That itself is something which takes you time to kind of, you know, discuss with team members and then come to a decision that, okay, this chapter or this part is important. This one is probably for an advanced course, as an example. So I love that. I love
Right.
that. That's awesome. Um, how did this perform as per expectations? What was the overall outcome like for this?
Yeah, so you can see on this website it says
Yeah.
3,400 participants. So that was the KPI for this specific
Mm,
project. As a marketer, I would love for it to be funnel attribution, even revenue, or tied to product adoption. But for this case, it was marketing qualified leads. And
sure.
last I checked, there were about 4,000 marketing qualified leads from this project. And I mentioned above, it was supposed to be the biggest campaign in company history. It absolutely was. Great conversion. The demand gen team loved it. It
I'm
was
sure.
very positive, very, very positive overall. And I think it definitely met the expectations of the C suite.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. And it's such a nice example as well. I hope the folks who are listening to this conversation will definitely take a few things out of this. So thanks for sharing. This was awesome.
Of course.
Uh, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna jump to our next section, section three. And just for the folks who are listening in, I also asked Susanna to think about one particular tool that she uses in a day to day, something that as a product marketer she finds the most value in. We'll go into a bit more detail about that, and we have some follow up questions on that. So we'll go to the third section, which is called Tool Talk. So, Susanna, what's that one tool for you that you just cannot function without?
I love user testing.
Nice.
It is, you can run tests with your customers. You can run moderated tests where you're actually like sitting with them and talking to them, or you can
Yeah.
run video surveys with potential buyers in the market. So I've used it to launch website feedback surveys, to do message testing. I've done a willingness to pay survey to help prioritize features in the roadmap and influence the roadmap positively. So it's a really great way to get qualitative insights and actually see users' faces and get live reactions when they're evaluating your company and your work.
Yeah, I've heard great things about user testing as well, uh, and that's a lovely example. And the way a product marketer uses is, as you said, message testing, getting a proof of concept out, and so on. So
Mhm.
that's a good example. What specific functions or what specific features do you in particular love about it? Because I know product marketers would use this for different reasons. Like I would probably use it in a different way as compared to another product marketer. But I want to hear your take. What is that one specific thing that you personally love about this?
I liked the segmentation piece.
Hmm.
I did some message testing with different industries, so I could specifically target retail versus healthcare industries. You can specifically target like a manager level or a buyer committee level.
Yeah,
So there's lots of ways to segment, so you can target the responses you get, which makes the information a lot more valuable.
100%. Yeah, that's a great feature for sure. Um, were you involved in the purchase decision for this?
I was not. It's usually owned by research teams. So our
Hmm.
UX research team used it and then told us, our team, hey, we're not going to use all of the credits that we bought. So
Right.
if you want to use it, and I immediately raised my hand because I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
you'll jump at the opportunity. Why
yeah,
not, right?
I don't
Absolutely.
get enough tools. I want more tools.
I love it. That's awesome. What aspect of their product marketing activities influenced you to give it a shot? Influenced you to try it? Influenced you to maybe even go ahead? You mentioned that obviously it was the research team's call, but what aspect of the product marketing activities influenced you to give it a shot?
So the UX team was doing moderated tests with customers to determine which UX capabilities were the most favored by our users. So this customer discovery seemed like such an important
Yeah.
instance for us to be able to leverage, like the actual real-time feedback that you could aggregate across your customer base. So that was really what influenced me to be interested in trying it. And
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Uh, this is an interesting question. Now, if I had to ask you, let's say in an alternate world, right? If you were working for user testing, let's say if you were a principal PMM at user testing, and if you had to target someone like yourself, another principal PMM out there, what would you do differently? Or is there anything that stands out to you that you think, oh, you know what? Another person like me would really, really benefit from this. So is there any one or two things that come to your mind which will where you would have done things differently?
I think it's designed for people whose primary role involves research, and product marketing does a lot of things, but I wouldn't say
Sure.
research is necessarily our primary role. It's one of a
One of the
few
things we
things
do.
that
Yeah.
we're responsible for.
Yeah.
So if you could make like a light module where there's maybe some support to survey design or creation or some sort of like training component with it.
Yeah.
And so you could get like a cheaper version for part-time researchers that could get a lot of value, but research wasn't necessarily the primary function. I think that would be how I would approach it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I would love to hear from user testing. Like I don't know if they have this data already, but imagine if we were able to see how many product marketers are actually using user test. As you mentioned, it's more of a UX or a research tool, but
Hmm.
how many product marketers are actually getting value of? I think that data would be very interesting to see and
Right.
learn how product marketers are actually using this. It's as I said earlier as well. It's everyone would use this differently, but if there were some trends or if there were some reports, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I
100%.
definitely think product teams can benefit from it too. So
100%.
I'd be curious to see like how different it's segmented across
Yeah.
different teams.
Yeah. So if anyone from user testing is listening, we have a request. Okay. Let's move on to the next section. Next section is something that I like to call behind the scenes. Behind the scenes is where I ask Susanna to think about uh, any particular project or anything that she is working on in her current role at Workday, and maybe just talk a little bit about what's top of mind for her there. So, Susanna, are you able to shed any light on any projects that you're currently leading?
Sure. I'm working on a big messaging project right now. It
Fun.
involves working. So it's interesting because I'm not actually I don't have a product counterpart, which is
Hmm.
very interesting to sit in. I'm actually working across all of our product marketers and their product SKUs to develop cohesive messaging that unites multiple product lines.
Yeah,
So it involves having a lot of product knowledge and also an understanding of all of our different customer segments and how to work across a lot of different types of product marketers with different levels of understanding of their buyers and depth.
sure. Interesting. You mentioned you don't have a currently a product counterpart, but it's more about you're working across product marketers. That's an interesting
Mhm.
challenge to have. Would you say that's like the main challenge or like the main roadblock that you're facing? And how are you going about addressing that?
It's definitely a big shift for me because I'm used to being really close to the product strategy, and now I have to
Yeah.
extrapolate it across a bunch
Mm,
of different buying centers. So I need to have at least a foundational grasp on each of the PMM teams' buyer traits and personas and segments and product benefits. And so I don't get to go as deep. I'm very broad in
mm,
this role, and that's a little bit of a shift for me. But it requires me to ramp up quickly, to build trust quickly. And so a lot of, what I'm tackling is figuring out how to engage with my stakeholders at the right cadence and at the right stages so that they fully buy into the projects that I'm working on. I would say you often only get one chance to make a good first impression. So I have to be really thoughtful with how I engage with my stakeholders so that they feel like they're really bought into the end result.
yeah. I totally hear you. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Time for final thoughts. So, a couple of questions. One, I mentioned this in the introduction as well. You've had multiple different marketing functions. You've had time at the C-suite level. Then you transitioned over into a more strategic role, which is obviously product marketing. And currently, you're doing that at Workday. So, what excites you most about product marketing as a function, and what do you think the future holds for the overall practice? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts at?
I think as we get more AI automations and can really start to outsource the more tedious aspects of our role, especially that aggregation of data and extrapolating all these insights that we can then use to create strategic value. And then also as product marketing becomes more prevalent and there's becomes a greater understanding of how much value we offer organizations, I think we're going to get a lot done. And I think we're going to be a really strategic and valuable powerhouse for organizations. And I think product marketing will be seen as indispensable, which is exciting to me. So,
It's already getting there, I think. It's
yeah.
already getting to a position where companies, big, medium, small, doesn't matter, are starting to realize the strategic impact and the value that we usually bring, right?
Hmm.
Um, so this is one thing that I like to say to people, like product marketers are responsible for understanding obviously the actual product that they're marketing, but also the overall value, the overall gap that it's filling for their customers. Product
Hmm.
marketers are doing the same internally also, if you think about it,
Yeah.
right?
We
Um,
have internal customers.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Internal customers, we are the ones who are bringing that specific value to each of the different teams who we work with as well, right?
Hmm.
Bridging the gaps that have traditionally existed, eliminating the silos that have traditionally been existed. So um, it's a great time to be a product marketer, and of course, there's so much more for us in the future as well. Awesome. On that note, I want to wrap this up. Susanna, how can people reach out to you if they'd like to learn more about what you
Yeah,
do, or just say hi?
yeah, LinkedIn is great. I'm also on the Product Marketing Alliance Slack workspace, so you could send me a DM there if you want, but follow me on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's probably the best place to reach me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna drop a link to your LinkedIn as well in the show notes. So yeah, that was episode 2 done out the door. Thanks, Susanna. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. This was a great conversation. I loved learning about Workday, about your time at 360 Learning as well. The example was really helpful and really valuable. And I think product marketers listening to us is obviously are gonna get a lot of value out of that. So thanks for bringing that example. Um, and folks, if you have any questions, if you have any comments or any feedback, I'm going to be dropping a question in the Spotify itself. So when you scroll down on the episode, you will see an open-ended question. You will see a poll question. So let me know what you guys think about the episode. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to do, or how did the example just resonate? The example that she brought, was that valuable? Did you guys learn something? Whatever it is, just share your thoughts below, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. And thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you for episode 3 soon. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Chirag. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.